I abandoned my son when he was 7 years old. I left him with my parents and disappeared for 12 years. When I came back, I expected anger, hatred, maybe even violence. What I got instead destroyed me in ways I never imagined. My name is May, and this is the story of how my son's forgiveness became my greatest punishment. Let me take you back to where it all started. I was 24 when I found out I was pregnant. My boyfriend Daniel and I weren't ready. Hell, I wasn't ready. I was working as a waitress at a diner, barely making enough to pay rent on my tiny studio apartment, living paycheck to paycheck with no savings and no plan for the future. When Tyler was born, I tried. I really did. For the first few months, I changed diapers, woke up at 3 in the morning for feedings, and pretended I knew what I was doing. But Daniel left when Tyler was 9 months old. He packed his bags one afternoon while I was at work and left a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I can't do this anymore. You're better at this than me anyway." Just like that, I was a single mother with no clue how to raise a kid, no money, and no support system, except my parents, who were already in their 60s and dealing with their own health problems. For 6 years, I struggled. I worked 2 jobs to keep us fed. I barely slept. Tyler grew up eating cereal for dinner most nights because I was too exhausted to cook. I missed his school plays because I was working the night shift at the diner and cleaning houses during the day. I forgot his birthday twice because I was so burned out I could barely remember my own name. And then one day, when Tyler was 7 years old, I looked at him and felt nothing. Not love, not anger, just emptiness. He was watching cartoons on our old television, and I remember thinking, this kid deserves better than me. So I did something unforgivable. I took him to my parents' house, told them I needed them to watch him for a few weeks while I figured things out. And then I never came back. I didn't call. I didn't write. I didn't send birthday cards or Christmas presents. I just vanished like smoke in the wind. For 12 years, I lived in different cities, worked different jobs, and tried to forget I had a son. I told myself he was better off without me, that my parents could give him the stable life I never could, that I was doing him a favor by staying away. But the truth is, I was just a coward. I was running away from responsibility, from guilt, from the constant reminder that I had failed as a mother. When Tyler turned 19, something inside me broke. I was living in a cheap motel in Phoenix, working at a gas station, and drinking myself to sleep every night. One morning, I woke up and realized I was going to die alone, forgotten, with nothing to show for my life except a trail of mistakes and broken promises. That's when I decided to go back. I convinced myself that Tyler would want to see me, that we could rebuild our relationship, that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to be a mother. I was so wrong. I drove back to my hometown on a Tuesday afternoon in October. The leaves were changing color, and everything looked smaller than I remembered. My parents still lived in the same house, a small blue ranch with a white picket fence that was falling apart. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the front door, trying to build up the courage to knock. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might pass out. Finally, I got out and walked up to the door. I rang the doorbell and waited. Footsteps. The door opened. My mother stood there, older and grayer than I remembered. For a few seconds, she just stared at me, like she was seeing a ghost. Then her face hardened. "What are you doing here, May?" Her voice was cold, flat, completely devoid of the warmth I remembered from my childhood. "I came to see Tyler," I said. "I want to talk to him." She laughed, not a happy laugh, but a bitter, painful sound that cut through me like a knife. "Now you want to talk to him? After 12 years?" "Mom, please." I know I messed up. I just want a chance to explain. Explain what? That you're a coward? That you abandoned your own son because things got hard? He already knows that, May. I deserved that. I deserved worse. Is he here?" She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see the war happening behind her eyes. Part of her wanted to slam the door in my face. Part of her wanted to protect Tyler from more pain. But another part, maybe the part that still remembered me as a daughter, stepped aside. "He's in the backyard," she said quietly. "But May, if you hurt that boy again, I swear to God, I will make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." I walked through the house, past family photos on the walls. I saw pictures of Tyler growing up, every age I had missed, his first day of school, his baseball team photo, his high school graduation. In none of these pictures was I present. My parents had raised him. They had been there for every important moment while I was off living my selfish life. I stepped out into the backyard and saw him. Tyler was sitting on the old wooden deck, working on a laptop. He was tall now, almost 6 feet, with dark hair and Daniel's eyes. He looked up when he heard the door close. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other. I waited for the explosion, for the anger, for him to scream at me, or tell me to leave, or slam his laptop shut and walk away. Instead, he closed his laptop, stood up, and said, "Hi, Mom." Those two words hit me harder than any slap could have. There was no emotion in them, no anger, no joy, just a flat, neutral greeting, like I was a stranger he was meeting for the first time. "Tyler," I said, my voice cracking, "I know I don't have the right to be here. I know I don't deserve your time or your attention, but I needed to see you. I needed to tell you I'm sorry." He nodded slowly. "Okay." That's all he said. Just, "Okay." No follow-up questions, no demands for explanation, no tears, no yelling. Nothing. "Can we talk?" I asked. "Can I explain what happened?" "Sure," he said, sitting back down and gesturing to the chair next to him. "Go ahead." I sat and started talking. I told him everything. How overwhelmed I was after Daniel left. The depression, the exhaustion, the feeling of drowning every single day. Working 2 jobs and barely being able to afford food. How I thought leaving was the right thing to do, that he would be better off with my parents. How I was wrong. How I was a coward. How I had failed him in every possible way. I talked for 30 minutes straight, pouring out 12 years of guilt and regret and pain. When I finished, I was crying. Tyler just sat there, watching me with those neutral eyes. "Are you done?" he asked calmly. "Yes," I whispered. "Okay," he said. "I forgive you." I stared at him in shock. "What?" "I forgive you," he repeated. You were young, you were overwhelmed, you made a mistake. I understand. It's okay. Those words should have been a relief. They should have lifted the weight off my shoulders, should have given me hope for a future relationship. Instead, they felt like a death sentence. Because Tyler didn't forgive me out of love or compassion or understanding. He forgave me because he felt nothing. I was a stranger to him, a woman who happened to give birth to him, but meant nothing emotionally. Forgiving me cost him nothing because I had never mattered enough to hurt him. That's it? I asked. You just forgive me? Just like that? He shrugged. What do you want me to say? That I hate you? That I spent years angry and hurt? I didn't. Grandma and Grandpa gave me a good life. I had everything I needed. You weren't there. But honestly, I stopped thinking about you after the first year. You were just this vague concept of a person who used to exist. Every word was like a nail in my coffin. So you don't care that I left? I mean, it wasn't great, he said casually. But I was a kid. Kids adapt. I adapted. I moved on. Do you want to have a relationship now? I asked desperately. Can we start over? Can I be part of your life? He thought about it for a moment, like he was deciding whether to add a new item to his grocery list. I guess we could grab coffee sometime, but I'm pretty busy with school and work. I'm studying engineering at the state university. I have a girlfriend. I have friends. My life is pretty full. I could be part of that life, I said. I could come to your games or your school events or just hang out sometimes. I don't play sports, he said, and I don't really have school events. But sure, we can get coffee once in a while. That sounds fine. Fine. That was the word that destroyed me. Not good, not great, not exciting. Just fine. I was fine. Like a mediocre restaurant or a forgettable movie. Something that exists but doesn't matter. Over the next few months, I tried to build a relationship with Tyler. I texted him every week asking if he wanted to meet up. Sometimes he said yes. Sometimes he said he was too busy. When we did meet, the conversations were polite but empty. He would tell me about his classes, his girlfriend Emma, his plans after graduation. He would ask me surface-level questions about my life, my job, where I was living. But there was no depth, no emotion, no connection. It was like talking to a polite acquaintance who was just being nice out of obligation. One day, about 6 months after I came back, I asked him directly, Tyler, do you hate me? He looked genuinely confused. No. Why would I hate you? Because I abandoned you. Because I wasn't there when you needed me. Because I missed your entire childhood. He shrugged. That was a long time ago. I don't hold grudges. But doesn't it bother you? Don't you ever wonder what life would have been like if I had stayed? Not really, he said honestly. The life I had was good. Grandma and Grandpa were great parents. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. That's when I realized the truth. Tyler had a full life, a happy, successful life, and none of it included me. I wasn't a villain in his story. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't even a supporting character. I was just a footnote, a minor detail that didn't affect the plot. The forgiveness he offered me wasn't a gift. It was indifference wrapped in politeness. He had moved on so completely that my presence or absence meant nothing to him. I started spiraling after that realization. I drank more, slept less, showed up late to work. My manager at the gas station fired me after I missed 3 shifts in a row. I moved from the motel to an even cheaper place, a weekly rental with stained carpets and neighbors who screamed at each other every night. One evening, I showed up at my parents' house, drunk. My mother opened the door, took one look at me, and sighed. "May, what are you doing?" "I need to talk to Tyler," I slurred. "I need him to understand." "Understand what?" "That I'm sorry, that I love him, that I want to be his mother." She shook her head sadly. "May, you can't force someone to care about you. Tyler has his own life. You need to respect that." "But I'm his mother," I said desperately. "Doesn't that mean anything?" "You stopped being his mother 12 years ago," she said quietly. "Your father and I became his parents. You're just a biological donor who showed up too late." The truth in her words sobered me up faster than any cold shower could have. I stumbled back to my car and sat there in the dark, crying like I hadn't cried since the day I left Tyler at their house. A few weeks later, Tyler called me. I was shocked because he had never initiated contact before. I always had to reach out first. "Hey, Mom," he said. "I wanted to let you know I'm getting engaged to Emma. The proposal is happening next weekend." "That's great," I said, trying to sound happy. "Congratulations." "Thanks. Anyway, we're having an engagement party next month. You're welcome to come if you want." "Of course I want to come," I said. "I wouldn't miss it." "Cool. I'll text you the details." On the day of the party, I showed up with a gift. A nice watch I couldn't afford, but bought anyway because I wanted Tyler to know I cared. The party was at Emma's parents' house, a beautiful 2-story home with a big backyard decorated with string lights and flowers. I walked in feeling completely out of place. Everyone there knew Tyler, had real relationships with him, his friends from college, Emma's family, his co-workers from his part-time job. And then there was me, the stranger who happened to be related to him. When Tyler saw me, he waved and came over. "Hey, Mom, glad you could make it. Come on, I'll introduce you to some people." He introduced me as my mother, May. Not my mom, not with any warmth or pride, just a statement of biological fact. People shook my hand politely and then moved on to talk to other guests who actually mattered. At one point during the party, Emma's father gave a toast. He talked about how wonderful Tyler was, how proud he was to welcome him into their family, how he reminded him of his own son. Then my own father stood up. "I want to say a few words about Tyler," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This young man has been the greatest joy of our lives. From the moment he came to live with us, he brought light and love into our home. We watched him grow from a scared little boy into this incredible young man standing before us today. We couldn't be prouder of the person he's become." Everyone clapped and cheered. Tyler hugged my parents, and I could see genuine love and gratitude in his eyes. That's when it hit me. These were his real parents, not me. I had given him life, but they had given him everything that mattered. After the toast, I found myself standing alone in a corner, watching Tyler laugh and celebrate with the people who actually knew him. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and I realized that his happiness had nothing to do with me. I left the party early. Nobody noticed. That night, I sat in my crappy apartment and finally accepted the truth. Tyler didn't need me to be part of his life. He didn't hate me enough to push me away, but he also didn't love me enough to pull me closer. I existed in this terrible middle ground where I was tolerated but not wanted, accepted but not needed. His forgiveness, the thing I thought I wanted more than anything, turned out to be the cruelest punishment of all. Because forgiveness without relationship is just indifference. And indifference is so much worse than hatred. If Tyler hated me, at least that would mean I mattered enough to evoke strong emotion. But he didn't hate me. He just didn't care. I remember one afternoon, about 8 months after I came back, I was sitting in a coffee shop waiting for Tyler. We had planned to meet at 2, but by 2:30, he still hadn't shown up. I texted him asking if he was coming. He replied 20 minutes later, saying he forgot and asking if we could reschedule. He forgot. That's how little our meetings meant to him. I was so insignificant that spending time with me didn't even register as important enough to remember. I told him it was fine, that we could reschedule, but inside I was breaking, because that moment confirmed what I already knew. I didn't matter. I was just an obligation he occasionally remembered to fulfill, like paying a bill or taking out the trash. I still see Tyler occasionally. We get coffee every few months. He updates me on his life, and I tell him about mine. The conversations are pleasant and meaningless. He's polite, friendly even, but distant, like we're co-workers who run into each other in the office break room. He got married last year. I was invited to the wedding. I sat in the back row watching my son marry the love of his life, surrounded by people who actually mattered to him. When he thanked everyone for coming, he made special mention of his grandparents, Emma's parents, his best man, and several friends. I was not mentioned, not out of spite, but because I simply wasn't significant enough to acknowledge. During the reception, I watched Tyler dance with my mother. It was the mother-son dance, and she was crying tears of joy. I realized in that moment that she had earned that dance. She had been there for every scraped knee, every bad day at school, every achievement, every failure. She had earned the right to be called his mother. I had given birth to him, but that's all I had done. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Being there does. And I hadn't been there. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed, if I had pushed through the exhaustion and the depression and the feeling of drowning. Would Tyler and I have a real relationship? Would he call me on Mother's Day? Would he introduce me to people with pride instead of neutral politeness? But I didn't stay. I ran, and now I'm paying the price. The worst part is that Tyler is fine. He's happy, successful, loved. He has everything he needs, and none of it includes me. My presence in his life doesn't improve it. My absence wouldn't diminish it. I'm just there, existing on the periphery of a life I could have been central to. A few months ago, Emma announced she was pregnant. Tyler called to tell me I was going to be a grandmother. I should have been excited, but all I could think about was how I would be a grandmother to a child who would grow up not knowing me, just like Tyler grew up not knowing me. That's wonderful, I told him. Congratulations. Thanks, he said. We're really excited. Grandma and Grandpa are over the moon. They're already planning to help with babysitting and everything. Of course they were. They would be the real grandparents, just like they were the real parents. I would be the woman who shows up occasionally, who the baby would learn to call by my first name, because Grandma was already taken by someone who actually earned the title. Are you okay, Mom? Tyler asked, and for a moment, I thought maybe he cared. Maybe he could sense my pain. I'm fine, I lied. Just emotional. It's big news. Yeah, it is, he said. Anyway, I have to go. Emma wants to start looking at baby furniture. Talk to you later. And just like that, he was gone, off to live his life with the people who mattered. People always say that forgiveness is a gift, that it heals wounds and brings peace. But they don't tell you that sometimes forgiveness is just another word for forgetting. Tyler forgave me because he had already forgotten me. I was erased from his heart long before I showed up asking for redemption. I missed my son's childhood, and I thought that was my punishment. But I was wrong. My real punishment is watching him live a full and happy life without me, knowing I could have been part of it if I had just been brave enough to stay. I look at other mothers sometimes, the ones who push strollers through the park, attend their kids' soccer games, or pack lunches with little notes inside. I watch them and think about all the moments I threw away. The first steps I didn't see, the first words I didn't hear, the scraped knees I didn't bandage, the nightmares I didn't comfort. Those moments don't come back. You can't buy them or earn them or wish them into existence. They're gone forever. And so is the relationship they would have built. Tyler doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't owe me his time, his love, his forgiveness, or his presence in my life. I abandoned him when he needed me most, and he survived without me. He thrived without me. And now I have to live with the consequences of my choices. I have to watch from the outside as he builds a beautiful life that I'm not part of. I have to accept that I'm a footnote in his story, a character who appeared briefly and then faded into irrelevance. The hardest part is that there's no villain in this story. Tyler isn't punishing me. He's just living his life. My parents aren't keeping us apart. They're being the parents they've always been. Emma isn't preventing me from seeing Tyler. She's building a life with her husband. The only villain in this story is me. I created this situation. I made the choices that led to this outcome. And now I have to live with it. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake and replay the moment I dropped Tyler off at my parents' house. I remember his little face looking up at me, confused, asking when I was coming back. I remember telling him it would just be a few weeks. I remember driving away and seeing him in the rearview mirror, standing on the porch with my mother's hand on his shoulder. That was the moment I lost him. Not 12 years later when I came back, but right then, when I chose to leave instead of stay. If I could go back, I would do everything differently. I would push through the exhaustion. I would ask for help. I would stay. But I can't go back. Time only moves forward, and all I can do is live with the consequences of my past. I came back expecting anger, but what I got was worse. I got forgiveness without love. I got politeness without connection. I got a second chance at a relationship that never really existed in the first place. And that is my punishment. Not hatred, not anger, not rejection, just indifference. The knowledge that I don't matter, that I never will matter, and that it's entirely my own fault. Subscribe for more stories like this.